Welcome to America Under Trump on ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm your host, Jay Fidell. This episode is called Looking at Changes in the Domestic Economy. What do the economic metrics tell us? Our guest for the show is Roopmati Khandekar, geopolitical analyst. Welcome to the show, Roopmati.
Hello, Ajay. Thank you for having me on your show. Such a pleasure to be here.
We need to keep track of the changes under Trump. We have to connect the dots. We can't be forgetful. We have to remember what he promised, and we have to evaluate the economic metrics that are coming along. So this is a big opportunity for do that. And we look to you to help us understand the state of the economy under Trump in this show. So what are the main platform points he was going to address? What did he promise us when he ran for office?
Jay, he was loud and vocal as characteristic of Trump, and he has promised policies aligned on trade, immigration, workforce, diversity, and everything that affected the pocket of the American people. It was everything under the stars that was promised to people. And we know that he inherited the US economy growing at 2.8%. So he had a gap. He knew he had a gap to come to when he came into power. Jay, he has generally gone and played personal politics, tried to show what the voters would gain if he came into power personally, alone, like your rent, your wages, everything would be in those terms. It would never be about the international market or anything. It would be about your groceries being cheap, your rent being cheap, your business thriving. All these were promises which were lapped up by the people because they knew this is something which would Trump came as MAGA, the idea of making America great again was filling up your pockets and keeping your money in your own pockets. The nationalism that he brought about in his speech was what was highlighted in his economic policies promises also. His manifesto has told people about, what they can gain in their pockets if Trump comes into power. So it was a very lucrative carrot, but the stick behind was always invisible, Jay. So everybody has taken it up, and nobody thought about all these things. So we have what do you say? A federal budget deficit, inflation index. All these were fuzzy words for the general population. It was just your groceries being cheap, rent being cheap, cost of living going down, and thriving relief for your tax benefits. And the US corporate system is what keeps the US thriving in international business, and that prosperity trickles down to the consumers. With Trump's policies, he has taken it to crony capitalism. His policies have taken it up to crony capitalism, but he had promised a stronger corporate system. Capitalism is America's forte. This profit and loss, benefiting from your profits, is what helps the American consumer have a high standard of living compared to other countries. And Trump was promising the world.
It's interesting that he sort of set it up. He blamed Kamala Harris on whatever Biden did, and he blamed Kamala Harris for inflation and said he alone could fix that. He talked about groceries. He said groceries is the key to my election, that the grocery prices would come down under Trump. He had no concept and no statement about how he would do any of those things. He just made these raw promises. And it's interesting that Kamala Harris was telling you exactly what her plan was, how she was going to effectuate her plan. That's because the media demanded that of her, and she provided answers to that. He never said exactly what he was going to do. He just made these bold promises that were without evidence and without analysis. And people believed it because they have believed him all along. It's cult. They believed his 30,000 lies in the first term, and they believed him during Biden's term when he criticized Biden. So now he gets up and he makes these promises, and they believe him again. They believe him on all the strangest things about the dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio, eating the pets. And so, what I'm concerned about here is how much of what he promised has come true. It's very important that the media does this, and I'm afraid they don't do it, but we do it. And I would like to examine, how it has operated. So, I guess the first question we need to talk about the stock market. The stock market went down, and when he, put out his ridiculous tariff spreadsheet there, which had no basis at all, the cost of the price of bonds went down, the price of stocks went down. It looked really bad. Since then, he has somehow recovered, and as of this week, he's back to the stock market that existed before he took office, which is really something. I don't know how he did that, but I think we have to deal with that if we're examining connecting the dots with him. How come, Roopmati, that the stock market and the bond market have resumed, the prices they had before he took office? How is that possible?
Jay, see, stock market sentiments always reflect the investor sentiments, and the American stock market being resilient or bouncing back is a surprise because right now, domestically, it's not that rosy a picture that this uprise in the stock market is showing. But like you said, we don't have um, investors in the stock market or stakeholders in the stock market from the rural areas, from America as a whole. It is the people who have money who will put money into the stock market. But the stock market really is relying on the general sentiments of uh, global prowess. Jay. There's been a war. There's been a conflict in which America. There have been three conflicts in which America has been vehemently involved, and that spending has it's been a robust lift to the companies which were involved, to the products that were involved, to the market that is involved. That show it is really stock market is really about sentiments, and when you feel that the American economy is doing good, the indexes will go up in a positive way. If you have something of a falling or war, which would, like in other countries, if there's a war approaching, the stock market falls. There's a negative report, the stock market falls. In America, the investors in the stock market or the international investors in the stock market are backing this economy under Trump. And we know his favoritism of monopolistic politics. Jay positions, Jay, of like the companies who helped Trump, their stocks rose after Trump was elected. So he has been the one who has given them tax cuts. He's given them federal help in establishing monopoly strategies across their business lines. And all this has helped them to consolidate the position and make it stronger, to announce more dividend. All these are very technical aspects of the stock exchange, but the stock market generally has taken confidence in Trump's policies. This is what is shown by the rise of the in the stock market, Jay.
Oh, you're so right about that, Rupati. I mean, what I get and what I believe for a lifetime of observing the stock market is that it doesn't necessarily reflect the economy at all. And
Ah,
look at the crash of 1929. The economy was about to go over the side. The stock market was very high. And then when the economy, I mean the real economy, went over the side, the stock market crashed. And so the guys who invest in the stock market are making all these rosy assumptions, but it's not the same thing as a metric on the economy itself. Yeah, I totally agree with the way you put that. Let's talk about fiscal policy. I mean, one of the things I think on his agenda, what he was representing to the people, was that he was going to be more careful about spending money, that he was going to cut waste and waste and fat out of the government, that he was going to get rid of all the unnecessary expenses in the government. And what he did was terminate thousands, hundreds of thousands of employees, making federal agencies go away, and terminated all these programs that's supposed to help people. So I guess he saved money that way, but then he also stopped the compensation to all of those people, and then they need government help to live, but he didn't provide government help. So how does that affect the economy? He stopped what he considered waste. By the way, I'm not mentioning Elon Musk's name because, my view of it is that Elon Musk was simply representing Trump. Whatever he did, Trump wanted him to do. So it
Yes.
was Trump's policy. It was Trump's activity. So, I'm really asking, was that a good idea for the economy? We know he fired hundreds of thousands of people, terminated many, many, many federal programs, and ostensibly saved money. But was that a good idea? Does that help the economy?
That they were trying to do under the guise of streamlining the bureaucracy or reducing the deep state of the economy. But what happens exactly is when you lose so many jobs, and the government jobs are considered to be the more secure jobs or the more job security jobs that are available in the market. And when you see chaos in this, it kind of has a trickling effect on the other job market also. And when you see government employees being thrown out with their brown boxes outside the building, there's a fear, or there's a sentiment of fear amongst the others in the economy, and that fear is very cumulative. It's never just a single case scenario. And overall, if we take it, the reduction of wages in the market reduces the spending capital in the hands of the consumers. So you will have less demand. All the prices will, it gives a very it's a cyclical process immediately. People will want to hold on to future savings, so they will not spend. If you have a running income, you kind of tend to spend, but because of loss of jobs or no guarantee of your desk, you will tend to hold on back on your money, your asset. Hard money becomes more prioritized in such a case, Jay. And when you saw this Elon Musk Trump duo trying to, overtake offices in a matter of moments. In a morning, it would be empty. You would lose your job. So all this was creating uncertainty in the domestic market. And Jay, when he talks about there's not protectionism that he spoke about, was never there. Like you lost every bit of government help that you wanted as promised in the polls. It was never there. It was just that we don't know what to do with you. If and it became stage wise. Like these were government American citizens facing this. So the immigrants got or the newly come in permanent citizens got a jolt. So overall chaos and uncertainty, Jay.
You see, there's so many things to talk about here, but let me go to the safety net. So if he terminates the safety net, that means a lot of people won't have money to live, to buy groceries, what have you. A lot of people will not be able to participate in the economy for the lack of childcare, what have you. And furthermore, if you terminate all these programs and benefits, there will be less money from the federal government going into the economy, and less money, less disposable income for people to spend. And so what you have is a real problem. And then, of course, he makes a tax cut, which affects the wealthy, not the disadvantaged or the middle class. And so when you don't have the money from the tax cut coming in, you have all these wasteful things that he's spending. He wants $4 trillion on his big, beautiful bill. That's going to increase the national debt. And he's spending all this money on things that don't help anyone, that are his pet projects. and the military, he's going to increase the money going to the military, but that isn't really going to affect or help the economy very much at all. So that, the bottom line is that nothing he has done is actually feeding money into the things that people need. At the same time, he's raising the national debt. And what we do have to get to the question of the tariffs, because he promised to reduce inflation, promised to make food available and cheap in the grocery stores. But the whole project with the tariffs has an effect on that. And of course, he lied to people when he said that foreign countries would pay those tariffs. So, can you explain how his tariff program has affected the economy? And as a result, how his promises for, reducing inflation, making food available, helping the supply lines, what have you, have been affected by his tariffs?
Jay, his entire concept was about making America great again, the nationalism that was there, and wanting to make domestic production a stronghold of the American economy. And that's the motive with which he went for tariffs abroad, so that foreign companies find it difficult to set up businesses in America, or we will import from other countries without, there's protection there's more export oriented trade, and the imports will be discouraged. That's the entire motive of tariffs in any country when they're implemented. But when you want to make your domestic production stronger, you need protection for your domestic, uh, what do you say, the production line. And that support from the government was lacking. He's done nothing to protect the local businesses. He's done nothing to give encouragement, or encouragement in financial uh, aid, Jay, giving them enough finance to set up their businesses, to be able to go through the competition. It's like a helping hand. And once the domestic production gets running, they go into a self-made mode, Jay. But when you announce tariffs, when you suspend international imports, there has to be a corresponding support to domestic production to balance or counter or fill in the gaps that are stopped by. So nothing of this sort of seesaw is happening. There's no balancing act. It's just that stopping imports from abroad. But what about the domestic thing? This happened with Apple, isn't it? When he's imposed tariffs on Apple to import the iPhones, he should have a backup plan. He should be able to give Apple enough incentive to set up factories back in America. Or he should be able to provide them workers at the same rate that is going abroad. So you have a company which is providing mass employment come into your country, but for that you have to give a little bit of incentive to Apple, the way India and China are giving them. So for Apple, it's never lucrative to come back to America and pay wages at that hour. So when America promises support, they will. And once it gets running, Jay, it's like a system. Once it gets a factory system, once it gets set, you'll have a production line. And that is lacking in Trump's domestic economic policies. He doesn't care for the support that he has to give domestic production.
Well, he talked about reshoring. He still talks about reshoring. He's going to get the American manufacturing community back to greatness again, but that hasn't happened. And from my observation, there's nothing he's doing to make it happen. And so the result is that they're not, as you say, they're not coming back. We're not building the manufacturing sector in the country. We're not building business in the country. In fact, a lot of businesses have folded because they can't buy what they need, either in parts or product from overseas, because it's too expensive because of the tariffs. So the tariff thing doesn't seem to have helped. And if you're talking about reshoring, it hasn't happened. And my observation, see if you agree, My observation is it isn't going to happen. He doesn't know how to do that, and he
Mm.
won't do it. And without making a soft landing for these companies, incentivizing them, as you say, they won't be able to come back. They won't be able to expand. And so the American economy in general will take a hit over it. So you have consumer problems in terms of prices and availability of disposable income. And then you have manufacturing problems that he has created with these tariffs and threats of tariff and uncertainty, right? Can you talk about
Yeah.
uncertainty? He's created uncertainty, chaos in the marketplace, which still exists, of course. How does the chaos affect the economy?
You're so right about this, Jay. The stock market reacts on chaos. The domestic economics also reacts the same way. Uh, uh, CJ, when he does not differentiate between agrarian and industrialized America, he makes a big mistake. A large part of rural America would still be the corn farmers, the beef producers. All these are sectors which have to be looked into. It's true that America has reached a point in life that they have become the hegemon of the system. They control the monetary policies of the international market. The dollars, the petrodollars, sustain the American economy, and there is a lot of pulling in of these benefits to the American economy. But to make an economy strong from within, he has to make this, you know, chaos settled. And when he has this, just you just see the incentives that he gives these big businesses or his friends in general. Like you always say, Jay, that oligopolistic attitude that he's got. He is creating Russian oligarchs kind of American system. Capitalism is in the hands of money, in hands of few, but capitalism should ideally mean benefits for all. That would be robust capitalism, and that would sustain America in the face of a recession. And in recession, Jay, that what you talk is so right, that chaos being a factor in economics, when you have this certainty, you can ride over these bumps, and you tend to what do you say, logically go through over these, even if there's a deficit, you tend to move over the deficits. But when there's chaos, even a small deficit would take you down several turns, Jay.
When they say depression,
uh,
I always think of people being depressed, you know? And I think that's what we're going to have if we don't have it already. We have people depressed about the future. Um, College kids can't get jobs because a lot of companies are folding or paying less because they have less money to pay. We have colleges who don't get funding, and you have to make that up by paying higher tuition and paying more money to the college. And of course, you have the immigrant community, not only the undocumented, but the families of the undocumented who, under the Constitution, have birthright citizenship. At least they did until last week. And so, the problem is that people get depressed. They don't want to do what they were doing. They're not as excited about making a buck and getting a job and making life better for their families. They're scared. They hunker down at home, and the result is you have depressed people. And a depressed people is, of course, a lack of confidence in the future. And a lack of confidence in the future is a depression. And it's not that hard to create one. We've had a number of recessions and depressions in the United States history, but he's really doing a job all at the same time. All of these factors contribute to the great, large possibility of a depression. For example, the farm workers, they can't help on the farm. They're running away from the farm. They don't want to be rounded up. The only way the farm organization can deal with that is to go make some sort of unholy deal with Trump. I don't know if that's happening, but that's the only option that he leaves them with, some corrupt deal. And then you have the people in the retail and restaurant sectors. Look at LA. LA is built on immigrants, a lot of whom don't have documentation. Instead of making a path for them to clear it up like the Dreamers, he wants to throw them out of the country and send them to Sudan so they can rot in prison. So, aside from the legal aspects of all of that, what the economic aspects seem clear. You're pulling out a number of productive workers from the economy, workers that are absolutely essential for a lot of economic sectors, and thus you're undermining those sectors, and you're leading those sectors to cut back, and you're contributing to the possibility not only of a recession but a full-throated depression. And I, for one, feel that we're on the cusp of that. So, your thoughts then, when you take all this together with the tariffs and the inflation, with the farmers and the retailers and the restaurants and the whole immigration issue, where are we going with that? And how dangerous is that for the economy?
You're so right about this, Jay. You just pictured it all in one frame. And Jay, this what do you say? This lack of long-term thinking that Trump has got. It's just like business. Let me do my business. Let me get my profits now, now, now. It's never that. Let me think about what can make the American economy strong. And like you say, Jay, it is about all these zones that he's got into at one time that has created this mess. And he wants to do everything at this moment. That doesn't happen. You have to go step by step. Large scale farming was a forte of America. And in the face of a real depression in the world, Jay, what would help if you had subsistence level of uh, farming or food sustenance is very important in times of recession, because let the world do whatever it wants. If you can support your domestic population, you will be a stronghold. So keeping the agrarian sector strong also is a very big part of economics in today's world, because you can't just talk of industry and stock market. It has to be also about subsistence in the face, because see, COVID came, it just bashed down to being subsistence, what you needed, basic. So we have to think about those things also. It is that it has to, the industrialized sector is what do you say, engine for your progress. So we are facing China, we are facing India, Japan, all these people who are, all these nations who are on a path to rapid development. So to maintain that also is a big thing. So industry doesn't mean your friends. Industry means sector wise allocation of good federal budget for support for these two. It has to be a very and immigrants, the legal immigrants are your workforce. They work at lower wages for the American economy. So to make it lucrative, in America has been a land of immigrants, but legal immigrants. Now you can't just start bashing up people and putting American citizens into jail. That creates a worse kind of chaos, and worse than it's worse than movie talk. Jay, it's never about what is and what not, and his policies are never clear. It is how he wakes up. He will change according to what is happening in the morning. And a critical point that he did was, Jay, about the healthcare that he has, heard. Social security is a forte of the American economy, and people are assured because they get this. What do you say? Security, life security. Healthcare is important. Now, today, we are having affordable healthcare in even developing countries. So, why should America roll it back, Jay?
Well, rolling it back, he's attacking Medicare, Medicaid, and for that matter, Social Security. And what about all those people who depend on Social Security? So you get two problems out of it. One is they're not going to be able to spend any money because they won't have any money.
Mm.
Two is that they're going to be sick. They won't have the medical resources they had before. There's already a doctor shortage in this country, and he's cut off medical research. He's cut off medicine, medical care for people, and they're going to get sick, and then it costs more money. They just say if you have to go to the emergency room for everything, the hospital really can't continue to pay you unless you have the money to cover that. And so the hospital, sector is jeopardized. Healthcare and medicine, it's all jeopardized. And so, if you do that, you cut people off that way. It's not good for the economy at all. It's a loss of balance, and it's a loss of public confidence. And they do vote. They do vote. So I'm very concerned about healthcare also, Roopmati. But let's talk about Jay Powell, the director of the Fed, who was appointed before. In fact, I think Trump appointed him. But now he wants to get rid of him because Powell will not reduce the interest rate. Trump has this idea, another myopic idea, that if they just keep on reducing, the Fed just keeps on reducing the interest rate, that'll speed up the economy. And it goes to the question of what you said before. He's interested in doing it right now, today, immediately today, so we can take credit for it somehow and show the world how powerful he is and how effective he is. But if you reduce the interest rate, the Fed interest rate, are you going to have a better economy, below where it should be? Are you going to have a better economy, or are you going to have a crisis?
Jay, when he is playing on basic economics, when you reduce the interest rate, people tend to invest less, and there is more money in the market. He wants them to have spending money. But right now, when the economy is in such a state with so much uncertainty and chaos, that when you reduce your interest rate and you keep the money in the hands of the people, they will not spend it. They will hold on to it in fear. And so he is going to generally reduce the spending power amongst the people any which ways. It's not going to increase or decrease, Jay. And Jay, his fiscal policy is very flawed because it is never, you have to have parameters which connect. And he takes each parameter individually. Like today, he'll talk of the interest rate. Tomorrow, he'll talk of the repurchase rate. So it kind of doesn't move in a comprehensive manner. And that is where we have this, deficit building up, the budget deficit, uh, uh, the inflation rising, Jay, and wages being reduced in real terms. Real terms means how much your money can buy is most important for consumers. When you play with this interest rate and repo rate, it kind of creates this gap in between your purchasing power, Jay. So that is where it has a big influence on the market, on the economy.
That's why we wanted the Fed to be independent, but he's trying to pull the independence out from under the Fed. And, it's like the University of Virginia. He kept on pushing that guy, Ryan, the president, until the guy finally resigned this week. And I think he's going to be pushing Powell in every which way. And his acolytes are going to be pushing Powell, and his base is going to be threatening Powell. And after a while, there's a fair chance that Powell will likewise resign. And if he does, Trump will have his way to be able to, the unitary presidency, he'll be able to control the Fed, which is not a good thing because he's not qualified. He's not qualified to be president, actually. So what you have is a situation where he spends $50 million on a parade that nobody comes to. That was a huge waste of money. And he went and did that very interesting attack on Iran. God knows how much he spent on that. It was a major military operation. They haven't said how much money he spent on that. I am sure that it was hundreds and hundreds of millions. And he wants more for the military. He wants to build new weapons. He wants to spend money, again, a unitary presidency through hedge sets. He doesn't know anything about it. And at the same time, he's not doing social safety net. He's not helping people. He's spending money on projects that really don't seem appropriate. And so if you get back to what his platform was, this is not on his platform. I guess we have to come back to this whole thing about inflation and groceries and the price of an egg. This is not going away. It's getting worse. And when it gets worse, when food is more expensive, people have to make payday loans or non-payday loans if they don't have a job. to buy food. That was in the paper a number of times. And they can't eat, and their children can't eat. What kind of an economy is that? So this is happening anyway. I mean, I think despite the stock market, it's catching up with us. All of the things he's been talking about, he was talking about, are not coming true. And the things he's doing are counterproductive. And they are coming true, like his terminating federal employees and agencies, like his ridiculous tariffs, like his wasteful spending in the hundreds of millions, and of course his corruption. His corruption comes out of our pockets. And to wit, that $400 million jet that he took as a gift, it has to be remodeled and renovated and upgraded, and it's going to cost the taxpayers $200 or $300 million to do that, all for his vanity. And so he's spending money as a complete wastrel while he's telling us that we need to cut expenses and we need to cut benefits for our people. So the question I put to you is it catching up? And when is it going to become obvious that people are poor, hungry, in bad health, and dying? When is that going to become obvious? And what political effect does that have?
Hey, here we are talking such basic things for the American economy because he's brought it down to that zone. His dream of an economy with a few rules and regulations and public spending to be disbursed according to political proximity that the businesses have is created such havoc because what we have come down to is just how much can we have to survive. That is the whole point. It is thriving is going on at a very macroeconomic level, but the microeconomic level is come down to are you able to sustain another month, another day, or what's going to happen in the evening, or what's going to happen in the morning. It's come down to that kind of short-term analysis for every person, and sentiments, like you said, is always an important thing because not it's just about sentiments. It's really happening, isn't it, Jay? We think that it is just, we would discuss it and it would, but it's happening in every grocery store. Today, like when you talk of the New York mayor candidates who are campaigning, Jay, they speak about providing freebies. Now, it's a capitalist society. You don't need freebies. America is a nation where you work hard and you earn profit. If you're a hard worker, you will earn profit. There is no uncertainty in that. Today, it's become whatever you do tomorrow. I don't know whether you'll be in office. So that kind of a scenario that Trump has made this entire American dream become like what will happen next, and that is not right, Jay. Because I'll tell you, to learn the American population when this freebie um uh, political vendetta comes into place, it will cause more chaos and it will cause you will vote for the candidate who offers you more freebies. Overall, it will work towards creating an inflation. It will create it to a lethargic population. It will have a lot of repercussions which will never make a robust economy. And political candidates, need to promise what kind of jobs they can give you, what kind of what do you say, environment you will be working in, a good working environment. We'll support this business. Not saying you will have free bus rides and you will have free government-run grocery stores. That would create false politics into different level, Jay. We had Trump come in and do this, and we can't afford to have it in every level of politics that there is.
That is such a good point. When you promise, like this ostensible new mayor of New York, freebies, where's that money going to come from?
Exactly.
And can you actually deliver on that? Or is that just another Trumpian promise where he has no way of following through, no way of doing it? He knew that at the time he set up his platform. He knew that at the time he made these ridiculous promises. And I suggest that you're right. For a lot of candidates, they're going to be offering the same kind of crock. And it isn't going to work. They will never be able to get the money. The country will be, underwater. and we just can't afford. You can't keep going up, up, up in the national debt, and for that matter, the state debt. But I have another thing, and your discussion reminded me of it, and that is we live in a world where the environment is degrading. We live in a
Mm.
world of climate change. We're being surrounded by climate change. And it almost seems that the media and the politicians are spending less time thinking about that than they were before. It's incredible. And it is a much greater threat than it was before. It's an existential threat for the whole world. The US is producing more greenhouse gases than any other place, and the US is doing less. Even China is doing more. And so what you have is a government that is frozen. Uh, the Trump administration denies climate change. It's like they have this problem with reality. That's because a reality show is a fictitious reality, not a real reality. And so what I get on this is that he's not spending money on FEMA. He's dismantling FEMA. He's dismantling NOAA, which could give us advice about extreme weather coming soon. And we will not be able to recover when it gets worse, and it will get worse. It's not if, it's when. And so when this happens, when we get more and more of that climate change effect all through the country, and it's happening now, it amazes me that the media doesn't connect all these storms and destructive power and tornadoes and rainstorms and floods and all that. They don't mention a word about climate change. And thus the people don't understand and the government doesn't understand. They've got to take affirmative action to deal with climate change, which they are not doing. But ultimately, it's very costly. We've seen that with some of these storms, extreme weather situations, for that matter, sea level rise in many places. It's going to cost money. We should be spending money to prevent it and deal with it in advance, but we're not. In fact, we're reducing the money we spend on that. And when it happens, and in large measure, when it ruins communities and cities and states and the economy, we won't have a way to deal with it. We won't have a reserve. Our economy will be in the tank, and we will be completely victimized by the climate change that Trump denies. So this is a factor that could come any day, but you know that the risks are higher every day. Your thoughts?
Jay, you're so right to bring climate change into this because people tend to forget every time, and it's not a fringe topic that we have. Climate change is happening every day and at a sustained pace. Nobody's able to stop it. It's going to affect each and every one. Just because Trump doesn't believe in it, it's gone to the background in American politics because funding, like you said, has stopped. Everything has stopped. But there are no measures to take care of it, and when there are no measures to invest in R&D and prevention, a Hollywood movie which brings a change of disasters in a matter of moments. 1.5 hour movie would bring you from normalcy to total destruction. That is not going to be just fiction, it's going to be reality if you don't control climate change. And climate change, Jay, he puts on the back burner because he doesn't want to spend unnecessary. When you say what is unnecessary according to Trump, there are many levels to it. And when he puts climate change on the back burner, he overrides so many aspects, Jay, because climate change addressing requires, like again, it's you need a very long term goal for it. You need short term goal. It's a mix of both. It's never going to be it'll happen sometime in the future and maybe it will not affect us. That is not climate change. Suddenly you can have a city submerged. He has to talk about small islands protection. He has to talk about the sustainability programs that would come in place if there's a national disaster. Because see, when national disasters happen, uh, there's so much loss. Do we ever recover from a national disaster completely? Never. A wildfire, as simple as a wildfire. Palisades was beautiful, but it's gone into complete ruin. It may never be the same again. The same residents will never return to it. The Maui fire. These things take a very hard toll on it. So he has to have a comprehensive evaluation and prevent what he can. Climate change, agreed. Nobody can do much about it, but try to prevent that occurrence again from happening. Create suppose it's a wildfire, create a line of breakage from the forest to the populated area so it would not spread. There are so many things that have to be done, Jay. And he refuses to acknowledge anything of this. So now climate change has become an individual goal and accomplishment that you have to get to, Jay. Government is not going to do anything.
No, it's not. But one last area I would like to discuss with you, Roopmati, and that is the creation of a dictator police state. If you look back at Russia, the Soviet, USSR, back in Eastern Europe after the war, they got control of a number of satellite countries. And if you look at how those countries did under communist rule, under a police state, under Stalin and then others, fact is they were depressed. Their economies were terrible. If you look at Viktor Orban, he's got the worst economy in Europe. Why? Because he's got the most dictatorial police state in Europe. So I think it's in the EU anyway. So there's a kind of rule here, and that is a police state undermines any economy. Not to say that capitalism is the best thing in the world, but a police state is the worst thing in the world. That's clear. And so you have that. Then on top of that, for reasons that are really not clear, the policy that Trump has adopted and his acolytes have adopted is let's have as many guns as we can. And of course that leads to violence and fear and a lack of confidence in the future. This is very important. And so Trump is, sort of generating that kind of violence and fear. And the other thing is that a lot of women don't have the funds to get abortions. And they're forced by the law in their red states to carry the child. Okay, that may satisfy some ideologies and religions, but the fact is that when they do that, the child is unwanted. And so as this goes forward, there will be an awful lot of children. It's bad now, but it'll be much worse, who are unwanted. And they'll be all over the place in those red states because the women were forced to carry them. So when you take those factors about a lack of order, of civil order, the guns, and the police state, the fear of a police state, such as we have seen in LA, these are depressing factors. They don't want you to, they don't make you want to go to school and have a better life. They don't offer your kids the opportunity for a better life. They want you to stay at home in fear and trepidation. And that runs counter to the development of a vibrant economy. Am I right? Do you agree with that?
Always agree with you, Jay, because you speak this, it's like the truth of what is happening right now. This unwanted generation that will come in will bring in so much of crime, bring so much of, these issues of mental health are just the fringe of it. This is what is going to come, is not going to be just a talk with your psychologist. It's going to be knives and guns in the hands of unsatisfied souls who want to just hurt you for the sake of hurting you. We won't need suicide bombers from the aggrieved countries from the Middle East. They would just be inside the country itself. So this kind of the fear that is there in the society is not conducive for American thriving of the American economy. Jay. You need to have a stable. We've always spoken of this. There has to be a stable family life, a stable office life for you to bring in your money to your house, to create a welfare State, you need to create a welfare house. It has charity begins always at home. Welfare begins in your house. So unless your home is not safe and sound, how will you contribute to the economy? How will you contribute to America being a better place when there's chaos in your own house? So that is the point, that to keep the consumers or the citizens of America satisfied and in a happy zone, no, at least a normal calm zone. With Trump's policies, Jay, we have had citizens who have had to face the brunt of uncertainty to such an extent that LA came to, we would not believe that these are scenes from LA. Stone pelting, protesters being targeting, education being suspended. All these are factors which happen. You tend to associate with a radical, underdeveloped nation.
We haven't even touched on the possibility of terror attacks in the country,
Yeah.
because the terror attack could be a smaller terror attack, a loner, or it could be a huge terror attack like 9/11. And those terror attacks have a huge effect on the economy. But what it points out, Roopmati, is that we have covered an awful lot of things that feed into the economy today. And the economy is the center, of our possibilities going forward. And everything that happens has an effect on the economy. I guess that's what I've learned here. We have to break it down going forward. We have miles to go before we sleep on this America under Trump series. And so as we go forward, we'll break it down into various elements of what we have talked about today, and what will happen in the news in the future, maybe soon. And we'll try to figure out how all of these things connect and how they change life in these United States. And it doesn't look all that good about how those changes are going to work. But for now, let's leave it there. Thank you so much to our very important guest, Roopmati Khandekar, a geopolitical analyst and political analyst. I'm Jay Fidell, host of America Under Trump, in this episode, which we are calling Looking at Changes in the Domestic Economy. Much more to come. Thanks to our viewers for watching. We'll see you again soon for the next one. Aloha. Aloha, Roopmati.
Aloha, Jay. Thank you so much.